All right, Suhail with Sun City once again. We're here with another senior out of Eastwood High School, Danny Torres, and Danny is fresh out of the gate, just signed with UT. You got to be pretty happy about that. How do you feel about that?
Yes, sir. No, I definitely super happy about it. I'm excited. I'm pretty much just excited to see what the future holds.
Awesome, awesome, and uh, take me through that process a little bit because I know there was a lot of colleges that had you in their scope, and I know that you had a lot in your view of places that you would like to go. I know OSU was one of the ones in the mix as well, but talk to me about this process and why did you land with the UT?
Yes, sir. So I definitely think it was pretty much where I think I would be the best I could be, and I think that was definitely at UT. After visiting colleges and after visiting UT, there was just I had a feeling that I didn't get out of any other college. After meeting the guys, going on a few runs with them, and kind of being in the atmosphere around the school and the campus, I kind of knew that if I wanted to be the best I could be, it would have to be at UT. Kind of because there were just so many tools. All the guys are super great. They're all super driven, and I feel like surrounding myself but with them would be amazing just to kind of make me a better runner and even develop me as a person.
Did you have any chance to talk to the coaches out there, Coach for Real or Metcalf?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I got to talk to both of them on my visit, and it was amazing. Actually, Coach Metcalf was with us the whole visit. He gave us a tour of the city, tour of the campus, where I'd be staying if I would stay in dorms, and he's a he's an amazing coach. Definitely a cool guy. I'm excited to interact more with him and kind of just to trust him and hopefully develop me into an even better runner.
You said that was kind of the best fit. They had all the tools that you felt like would kind of complement you the best. What are some of the things that you feel that stood out for you while you're there? Not just the drive that you said that some of the vibe that you got from some of the guys, but in terms of coaching similarity, what are some of the things that you felt like stood out to you that said, okay, this is somebody that I know I can kind of invest myself into?
Yes, sir. I think definitely the environment, their trails, kind of just the Austin environment, their coaching, their trails, the pretty much, University of Texas has so many tools, as in treadmills, underwater treadmills, anti-gravity treadmill. It was amazing, things I've never experienced before. So, um, just to be able to train on those and kind of just give myself a little bit of an edge, less pressure on my legs and different stuff like that. And not even when it just comes to equipment, they also had just overall amazing trails, soft ground. Here in El Paso, we try to keep it on soft ground. Coach McLean at Album Park, and over there, every single trail is soft ground. So I think that's going to be super beneficial, mainly to prevent injuries and stay healthy.
That's great. I know that you were kind of late to the signing pool in terms of, some of the athletes there at Eastwood. Was there a reason why you signed kind of late? Were you still on the fence, or was it just the way scheduling worked out?
So it was a little bit of both. I was kind of undecided on what the future held for me, and after talking about it with my parents and discussing it a little bit more, I think I knew that I wanted to pursue college and going to continue running for the next 4 years at the University of Texas.
Gotcha, gotcha. We'll fast forward a little bit. Um, one of the things I want to cover first with you is, just some of the progression that you've made through your 4 years there at Eastwood. I think it's real important to note, Eastwood, obviously, probably the best running program in El Paso that we've seen in years. You got NXN qualifying teams. You're a two-time NXN qualifier. Uh, but what a lot of people don't realize is that the jump that Eastwood athletes make from freshman to sophomore and sophomore to junior year are probably, if not the best in the state of Texas. And anybody who follows those stats can see it. Um, but one of the things I want to throw out there is freshman year, you're averaging, the 20s for the 5K. Um, Fast forward to your sophomore year, your your PR is around a 649, but you're still averaging kind of around the 720 or the 17s, low 17s. And then fast forward, junior, senior year, you're running sub 15. Um, what does that have to say about you and your belief system into this program that can build athletes this way and, as well as, kind of like the faith that you can put into your coach as well,
Yes, sir.
coaches.
No, I think it definitely just has to do with putting all my trust into Coach McLean. first year running, I was a little nervous. I never ran before, so I kind of didn't know what I was getting myself into. But after kind of getting in a few races, being at practice, I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And after seeing Coach McLean, Coach Ayala, and even Coach Rivas throughout the season, seeing the upper guys get better and better every year, I was like, I wanted that to be me. So I kind of knew if I would stick with the program, I would give it my all every day, and I would make sure I was there during practice, morning, afternoon, whenever it was. I knew that Coach McLean would be able to develop me into my best potential, and I think it's exactly what happened.
One of the things that I always feel is an interesting concept is, you have this school, which is, part of the big three in El Paso and, one of the best in the state of Texas. Do you feel like there was pressure coming in when you see some of these varsity boys, running and, it's not an easy thing to make that varsity team for one, but just seeing how good they are and seeing that skill gap, did you feel like there was any sort of pressure to want to get there right away, or how did you handle that if there was any?
Yeah, no, I think getting into a program like Eastwood and the past they've had, I think it was there's definitely pressure not only by myself, but I would say also my parents, my friends, just knowing that I had to fill gaps of these senior guys that might be graduating. I knew that to keep the program's history would be there was definitely pressure behind it, but I think it was best just to stay calm. I personally with the team, I kind of just like I would stay relaxed with them before races, after races. We knew just to run our best race. All the work was pretty much already done. So whatever the outcome would be, it was kind of already guaranteed. You couldn't really change it at that point. So
Right.
I think that was definitely a strategy we had, and I think it worked out. Definitely, I think we kept the Eastwood program up there for the past 4 years.
Well, I mean, I'd say so. You guys finished, fourth at state this past year in 6A, which is, they call it the region of doom for a reason. Um, so we'll kind of backtrack a little bit. I did want to talk about your junior year in cross country. You had an incredible year, obviously successful. You're part of the top three or four guys that year that broke the meet record at NXR. Nobody had you on their radar, except for maybe people here in El Paso that knew what your skill set, the skill set that you possess, but nobody had you on their radar, zero. And you go in there and you run a sub 15 in an incredibly narrow course, and but what was even more wild about that was weeks before that, you get hit by a car. And I'm not sure, I hope you don't mind me saying that, but a lot of people didn't know that you weren't even doing any bit of running weeks before uh, these big time races. What was your thought process through that, and how do you feel like you were able to overcome that mentally?
Yeah, that was definitely a huge like kind of little barrier I had to get over. I think everything happens for a reason, and I think that made me stronger as an athlete overall. But when it first happened, I was super down. I was probably I would say in the best shape I've ever been in the past few years, and I was only getting better. So for that to happen, I kind of had to cross train every day. I hadn't ran that state year, my junior year for state. I think I didn't do too well. I was definitely hoping I could do better. I was recovering off, like you said, I had a fractured hip flexor, and it was pretty bad. But I think Coach McLean and kind of my teammates, they kind of just they knew that I still had it in me, and the support system they gave me throughout this journey it was amazing. Coach McLean made sure to not kind of like throw me over to the side just because he knew I was hurt, but he stayed focused with me as if I was still 100% healthy. And the support I had, it was pretty hard not to stay motivated and focused on the big goal. So I didn't run at all going into NXR, which was definitely a little mental on the line. I was like, man, all these guys, they've been having a great season, and I haven't been on my feet. I've been on a bike, swimming. So, but after the race, before the race, Coach McLean made sure I knew that the past 3 years' work weren't just gone because I got hit by a car. They were still in me, and I was excited. So, and I'd worked really hard on the bike. I'd be pouring sweat every day, so running more, biking more. So I think that was definitely a huge obstacle, but it was necessary, I believe, and it worked out.
What do you feel like was the biggest takeaway for you from that, like lesson learned mentally or physically? What was something that you feel like you were able to take from that experience and kind of just add it to a repertoire of mental tenacity or physical tenacity?
Yeah, I think it definitely not to take anything for granted, and especially to just just believe in yourself through hard times. Because I know during that I could have easily been like, man, this is it for me. Kind of just giving up on myself, and I don't think that's the right thing to done. But I definitely could have, and I think this definitely taught me that there's gonna be obstacles. Nothing's perfect because I kind of had a perfect past 3 years. Easily dropping my time, and I think it was about time that I hit a an obstacle, and I kind of forgot about that there would be obstacles. And I think this kind of opened my eyes to kind of show me like, hey, nothing's ever perfect, and here's your obstacle. So I think that's definitely something I got taught, that nothing's going to be easy, and I have to work for whatever it is I want to accomplish.
And, with that being said, you go into NXN, which you come out All-American. You got to be happy about that, obviously. But do you feel like that kind of changed the dynamic of, how you approach training or just things mentally, knowing that you didn't have all of this behind you, just going into the biggest race of of the year in terms of cross country. How did you approach that?
Yeah, it was definitely more mental than anything. I kind of knew that these guys had more work done behind them than I did, and it was really mental. I would say biggest thing was mental, and honestly, I tried not to let it get to me at all. I knew that I just kind of kept reminding myself that I knew I belonged there, and as long as I would give it my all, it would work out, and that's kind of how I approached that.
Fast forward a few months, and I do want to clarify that injury took place during your senior year, not your junior year. Um,
Sure.
but fast forward, weeks, you're feeling good again. I did get to talk to McLean briefly, and he just talked about how, you naturally went into training and, you were starting to look good again. And coming into track, it's almost like you didn't have this injury, you didn't miss a beat, and you're just ripping up the competition. It doesn't seem like there's any bit of competition for you here in El Paso. But one of the things that I did like to point out, and I think I pointed it out in Miles Westbrook's interview, was that, you know, it was fun seeing you guys get to race so much because, you guys were arguably the top two distance runners in El Paso. And so getting to see you guys race on a almost a weekend basis was great. Do you feel like that kind of helped keep you competitive in the season? Because realistically, there really wasn't anybody that could to challenge you per se. Do you feel like that kind of helped keep you competitive?
Yes, sir. No, definitely. I think here in El Paso, the Eastwood kind of running community is a little bit slept on by because we are in Texas, but we're kind of pushed over to the side. And I think Westbrook's an amazing runner. I enjoyed racing him every time I got to. I know Romero, and there was also Corbin Coombs. Not that far by. I kind of wish we all would have raced together maybe once. I think that would have been amazing, kind of just to showcase
Oh
the
yeah.
talent over here on this side of Texas and New Mexico. But I think Westbrook racing him frequently, it was definitely helped me throughout the season, kind of just to not kind of go into a slump, keep that competitive drive, so that when I would get to bigger races, it wasn't kind of new to me. I was kind of already used to it.
But knowing, I mean, there has to be a small chip on your shoulder, knowing that there really isn't anybody in El Paso that can challenge you, at least in those distance races. But how do you keep yourself challenged? How do you keep yourself motivated when you realistically don't have that challenge?
Yeah, it's definitely mental. I would just have to push myself. I knew when it was hurting, I know I could slow down because there was not really anybody near me, but I knew that wasn't the right thing to do because when I would get to bigger races, there would be somebody near me. And if I would let myself slow down then when I would get to those bigger races, I would do the same. So I kind of just kind of trained how I would practice how I would race in those big races. So I made sure to push myself in every race. I would make sure I would finish tired, make sure I gave it my everything during every race, no matter the competition.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's almost one of those coulda, shoulda, wouldas. If you had some more competition throughout the year, but then you go out to races like TDF and you drop a 14:38 in the 5K, um, and then fast forward, to district regionals and state. At regionals you killed it on the distance scene. You run a 4:11 in the 16, and you run an 8:51 in the 32, which for the 5K and the 32, those are now city records. Um, Take us through that thought process as you're accomplishing these accolades for one, and was Bernal's record something that you felt like this is something that I can break, not just break, but you kind of shattered his records.
Yes, sir. No, definitely been on my radar since last year. I've talked to Bernal many times, and he's given me advice. Kind of his story. I shared my story, and we're very similar athletes. We both came from, I would say the best program, Eastwood. But yeah, it was definitely been on my radar since last year when I got close to it when I ran a 38. I knew his was in the 20s, so this year I kind of I was focused on that, the 5K. I would say I'm better at the longer the distance, so I love the 5K. I've only raced it twice on the track ever, but I would say those are my two favorite races I've ever raced. So, it was definitely on my radar. Um, Going out this season, and man, to finish my season with two city records is but unbelievable.
And not only that, you know, you got two podium finishes at state. Well, for the most part, I think the 16 was you were very close off of it. Um, what do you feel like surprised you the most out of that entire season, your track season, if
Yes, sir. I
anything?
would. Yes, sir. I would definitely say the strategic racing towards the end of the season surprised me the most. It was during state, I would say that was one of the most difficult races I've raced. Not only because I was racing the best guys in the state, but I've also it was kind of the end for me. I knew it was going to be my last race, so I wanted to give it my all. And the strategic race we raced during that race was something I'd never experienced in my past 4 years. To open kind of slow like we did and close as fast as we did is something I've never experienced in any race. So to kind of finish the season like that, it was amazing. I'm super grateful for that experience and to get to race a race like that before I go into college.
Yeah, because I think you guys in the 32, you guys closed out in the sub 60. I think it was close to what was it close to about a 55, 56? What was it? I don't
Yes,
remember
sir.
exactly.
Yeah, I think it was a 55.
So, you know, when you have races like this, what do you feel like is the biggest advantage that you can take out of that going into college?
Definitely, I would say the experience. I know in college there's a lot of more strategic racing because these guys are at the highest level. So, um, for me to be able to race like that and kind of get some of that experience here in high school and kind of experience just overall the strategic racing, not really where everyone's going to be giving it their all the whole race, kind of where everybody wants to win and they're going to do it whatever it takes to win. I think that's definitely going to help me in college. So that when I get in the race over there, I'm not surprised or my body can't handle it.
Right. And you know, you've had an incredible career. You know, obviously we've talked about the progression, the accolades, but you know, what lesson do you feel or lessons do you feel like you've learned there at Eastwood that you feel like you can really take with you when you start running there at UT that's going to benefit you and your team when you start running collegiately?
Sure, definitely. I would say, um, not only the mental motivation, but I believe that the hard work I learned at Eastwood and overall in the program with the guys, I think hard work carried us these past 4 years and helped me not only on the track but in the classroom or whatever it is I was doing outside of school. And I think if I carry that with me into UT, I'm gonna strive for success. And yeah,
And what's the one thing that you carry with you each race? Like, I think all of us athletes that have ever run can still somehow hear their coach's voice, you know, anytime we go out for a run. But what is the one thing, whether it's something that your coach has told you or something that you feel like you acquired over the 4 years, what's one thing that you carry with you each race?
yeah, I definitely carry with me my past. I would say Coach McLean, he makes sure he doesn't really come to us at a race at all, which is I guess you'd be pretty surprised because I think your coach should be there for you on the day, but he doesn't do that at all. And I think it's super important. He's explained to us the reasoning. I think it's super smart, and he believes that if he comes to us, we're going to get a little nervous and we're not going to perform our best. So by him staying off to the side and kind of the day before, he's just going to let us know and remind us of the work we've put in throughout the season. It's really going to help us the day of not get nervous or kind of just stay calm. And that's something I think that I'm going to remember. Just to stay calm under pressure. Whether it comes to a big test I have to take or another big race I have to race in, I think that's something I'm going to carry with me. I'm also going to remember Coach McLean yelling at me cheek to cheek every kick, because I think that was one of my biggest weaknesses, my kick, and something we worked on the past 4 years. I think I got really good at it towards this last year, but that's something he stressed on me, and I'm never gonna forget that.
Yeah, I did manage to hear him on the sidelines every now and then, yelling that out. So I'd imagine that's something that's pretty hard to forget. Um, but before we close this out, like I talk to every athlete, I always like to ask this question because sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's different. But I think it'll be important for you too, because like you said, you were kind of on the fence there about whether or not you felt like you wanted to keep pursuing running in college. But what would your advice be to your younger self about kind of entering this process in the future? And what would be your advice to other male or female athletes that kind of might be in your similar position where they have the talent, but they still don't know if running is something that's for them?
Yes, sir. I would definitely just say follow your heart, follow whatever you want to do. Because if you take another 4 year leap at running at something you're not enjoying or something you don't love doing, I think, and that's not for you, I think it'd be better if you pursue something that you love. And I think that's something I would tell my future self for any other athlete that is kind of contemplating whether he wants to continue it is whatever sport he's playing. But I would definitely just say follow your heart, and only you would know really deep down what it is you want to do. So I would just say don't let others affect that or any pressure from anybody else kind of affect your decision. As long as you know deep down that that's what you want to do, I think you just follow that and you'll be successful as long as you give it your all.
Awesome. Well, I think it's always a weird thing, when we have seniors like you graduate because when I got to see Daniel run and some of these other top runners, you got Franklin, Sanelli, some of these other top runners, when they leave El Paso and they go out and do good things, you're like, okay, well, who's going to be the next guy to come up into the ranks? And you were that guy, at least for these past 3 years. So it was fun to watch. But congratulations again on signing to UT. A lot of the Texas guys that go there and a lot of the El Paso guys that go there, they go out there and kill it. We had a couple of Hanks guys that went out there and killed it. We have Eva Jess, Franklin Girl, killing it out there at UT. So I'm excited to see what you do. Maybe a couple of years down the road, we can have another interview and see how things are going and see if that perspective has changed a bit.
Yes, sir. No, definitely. I appreciate it, Coach Suhail. Thank you.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.